Welcome. Today we're diving into an important aspect of learning German, verbs with fixed prepositions. If you've ever wondered why certain verbs always seem to come with the same little words, you're not alone. These combinations are essential for sounding natural in German, and mastering them will make your conversations much smoother. Let's explore why these verb preposition pairs matter and how you can start using them confidently in your daily speech. German, some verbs always require a specific preposition to make sense. These are called fixed prepositions. For example, the verb warten, to wait, is almost always followed by off, so you say warten off. Learning these pairs is crucial because using the wrong preposition can change the meaning or make your sentence unclear. Throughout this video, we'll look at common examples and tips for remembering them. You might be asking, why not just translate directly? Well, German doesn't always match English when it comes to prepositions. For instance, denken and means to think of, not think on. That's why memorizing these verb preposition pairs is so important. It helps you avoid common mistakes and communicate more naturally with native speakers. Let's start with a classic example, warten off. In English you might say wait for, but in German it's warten off. So ich warte auf den Bus means I'm waiting for the bus. Notice how off is always used with warten. Practicing these combinations helps you remember them more easily. Another tricky pair is denken an and denken über. Denken an means to think of someone or something, while denken über means to think about in the sense of considering or reflecting. For example, ich denke dich means I'm thinking of you, but ich denk über das Problem nach means I'm thinking about the problem. The verb sprechen also changes meaning depending on the preposition. Sprechen mit means to speak with someone, while sprechen über means to talk about something. For example, ich sprech mit meinem Freund is I'm speaking with my friend, and ich sprech über das Wetter is I'm talking about the weather. Here's another example, Angst haben vor. In English we say to be afraid of, but in German it's Angst haben vor, so ich habe Angst vor Spinnen means I'm afraid of spiders. The preposition vor is always used with Angst haben. Verb sich freuen can be used with off or über, and each has a different meaning. Sich freuen off means to look forward to something in the future, while sich freuen über means to be happy about something that has already happened. For example, ich freue mich auf den Urlaub means I'm looking forward to the vacation, and ich freue mich über das Geschenk means I'm happy about the gift. The verb arbeiten is often used with an, meaning to work on something. For example, ich arbeite an einem Projekt means I'm working on a project. Remember, an is the preposition that fits with arbeiten in this context. Another common verb preposition pair is teilnehmen an, which means to participate in. For example, ich nehme an dem Kurs teil means I'm participating in the course. The preposition an is always used with teilnehmen. The phrase sich interessieren für means to be interested in. For example, ich interessiere mich für Musik means I'm interested in music. The preposition für is always used with interessieren. The verb sich kümmern means to take care of. For example, ich kümmere mich die Kinder means I take care of the children. The preposition is always used with kümmern. The phrase sich erinnern and means to remember. For example, ich erinnere mich an den Tag means I remember the day. The preposition an is always used with erinnern. The verb sich bewerben means to apply for. For example, ich bewerbe mich die Stelle means I'm applying for the job. The preposition is always used with bewerben. The phrase sich verlieben in means to fall in love with. For example, ich habe mich in dich verliebt means I fell in love with you. The preposition in is always used with verlieben. The verb sich beschäftigen mit means to be busy with or to deal with. For example, ich beschäftige mich mit dem Thema means I'm dealing with the topic. The preposition mit is always used with beschäftigen. The phrase sich unterhalten mit means to have a conversation with. For example, ich unterhalte mich mit meiner Freundin means I'm having a conversation with my friend. The preposition mit is always used with unterhalt. The verb sich vorbereiten auf means to prepare for. For example, ich bereite mich auf die Prüfung vor means I'm preparing for the exam. The preposition auf is always used with vorbereiten. The phrase sich verlassen auf means to rely on. For example, ich verlasse mich auf dich means I rely on you. The preposition auf is always used with verlassen. The verb sich entscheiden für means to decide on. For example, ich entscheide mich für das rote Kleid means I decide on the red dress. The preposition für is always used with entscheiden. The phrase sich bedanken für means to thank for. For example, ich bedanke mich für das Geschenk means I thank you for the gift. The preposition für is always used with bedanken. The verb sich beschweren über means to complain about. For example, ich beschwere mich über das Essen means I complain about the food. The preposition über is always used with beschweren. The phrase sich befreien von means to free oneself from. For example, ich befreie mich von meinen Sorgen means I'm freeing myself from my worries. The preposition von is always used with befreien. The verb sich entschuldigen für means to apologize for. For example, ich entschuldige mich für den Fehler means I apologize for the mistake. The preposition für is always used with entschuldigen. The phrase sich wundern über means to be surprised about. For example, ich wundere mich über das Ergebnis means I'm surprised about the result. The preposition über is always used with wundern. Let's revisit sich verlieben in. This phrase is used for falling in love with someone or something. For example, ich habe mich in das Buch verliebt means I fell in love with the book. The preposition in is always used with verlieben. The phrase sich fürchten vor means to be afraid of. For example, ich fürchte mich vor Hunden means I'm afraid of dogs. The preposition vor is always used with fürchten. The verb sich sehnen nach means to long for. For example, ich sehne mich nach Ruhe means I long for peace. The preposition nach is always used with sehnen. The phrase sich treffen mit means to meet with. For example, ich treffe mich mit Freunden means I'm meeting with friends. The preposition mit is always used with treffen. Now that we've covered many common German verbs with fixed prepositions, remember that practice is key. Try to use these combinations in your daily conversations or write example sentences. Flashcards can also help you memorize them. With time and repetition, these pairs will become second nature, making your German sound more fluent and natural. Keep practicing, and you'll master these essential verb preposition pairs in no time.